Everybody.
What's up, Bret?
Everybody hear me good? Perfect. Well, good to be back in our Zoom world with you guys. I just figured since no practice was coming in for you, I thought it would be easier to connect this way. I'd probably encourage you to give Bret a little bit of feedback if this works, right? So like, I know that the last thing I want to do is waste your guys' time, make you stick around or stand around and wait. When the players are here, obviously probably better do in person, but if it's just me, I thought this is just as easy as anything, but encourage any feedback that way. Just finished our second scrimmage, very productive day for us in a variety of different ways. We did a lot of live football today. Actually, the whole scrimmage itself was live, other than some kicking plays that we didn't play tackle football, but for the most part, it was live. It was very situational. So we started off moving the football through 6 series, actually 8 series total. And then we did an end of half scenario with a lot of good on good work, and then took an actual halftime, taught our guys, the break, the halftime to recover, to get down there on their, get off their feet, hydrate, and then take the field in the second half and start the second half like we would during the course of the game. So just the actual movement of guys in and out of the field, off the field, on the field, different personnel groupings. Had a couple guys that had to tap out, either they were tired or there was a guy got nicked up or injured and had to have another guy sub in. So a lot of really just good football work in that regard. I think offensively, we ran the ball fairly well. Had a couple offensive touchdowns, some explosive plays. I think in the throw game, rotated in all 4 quarterbacks that we'd kind of given time to. With obviously BP, we got the majority of the work with the ones, but also all the guys did. Matt, Art, and Ryan all got work with the ones as well. So guys got some work there. Wide receiver wise, did a couple of nice, had a couple of big play opportunities, some running, catch and run after the throw. Got some red area work, and we're able to block them up. Defensively, we tackled again pretty well, pretty efficient. Didn't have any missed tackles that I recall, and made some nice plays on the ball. Didn't turn the ball over offensively, which was good. We've talked to our guys a lot about, before we can win the game, we got to stop from losing them. And I think they've really began to understand that. We'll put this one to bed this afternoon. Jump into we've obviously done a lot of Nebraska preparation already during the spring and during the fall, kind of piecemealed it together. But now we'll really begin to, sink our teeth into the scouting reports, offense, defense, special teams, and get a couple good practices in before the weekend, and have a mock game on Friday, and then obviously hit the ground running on Sunday forward. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. Go ahead, Jeremy.
That was Scott there in the portal there. Bret, I had a kind of specific question, so I was going to wait. But Marquez Beeson, I talked with him the other day. How is he? Do you have an update on what he can do physically and just what his year has been like? Because it feels like it's been pretty sporadic for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So a guy obviously that transitioned to that wide receiver position during the spring, had some soft tissue issues during the spring that limited his time. Really was having a pretty good summer, I thought, overall. The reports were, as coaches, we couldn't be around him every day, but had a pretty good summer. And then unfortunately, literally that last summer workout, I was standing right there. He just a routine cone drill, went to accelerate out of it and pulled his hammy a little bit, and pretty significant pull, because he's actually been out to this point and probably not going to expect him back really probably until week 2 or 3 of the season. He's not anywhere close to being able to be out there right now.
What did you see from him so far that you have been able to see of him, and just long term? Like, obviously this seems like a long term thing. What he can add to you?
Jeremy, really, unfortunately, I haven't been able to see anything really, because he's, when he was healthy in the summer, we couldn't be with him as coaches working with him. So I do know this: they had GPS on him and different things. Like, I know he can run. I know he's got good football IQ. I know, just off of what I've seen and learned about him, that he can. If he can get himself healthy and be on the field, he could be a productive player. But it's really a moot point at this juncture, just because he hasn't been able to get on the field at all.
Sure. Thanks, Bret.
Yep.
Hey, Bret, how has the leadership been developing in terms of, do you feel like there's guys that when they speak in the locker room or on the field, the other players listen and they take cues from them? And Is that something you have to work on given your newness still to the program, relatively speaking?
Yeah, Scott, we actually elected a Illini council of 13 people about 2 weeks ago. So that's a group of players that is voted on by their peers in their position groups, right? So had an offensive lineman, they voted Doug Kramer, right? Our tight ends actually voted Marquise. Running backs actually voted, I believe, I'm not going to say that. I can't remember if it was, it might be Chase, but by position on defense, Owen Carney, Bobo, Tony Adams, Jake Hansen. There's 5 offensive players, 5 defensive players, one from the transfer world, one from the walk-on world, and one from the freshman class. So kind of just a representation of 13 student athletes that represent their position groups, and then they'll meet with me or Kevin Kane and George McDonald. Gio and Kevin are kind of my guys. They're associate head coach, assistant head coach. Those guys will do a lot of character development, player development, meet with those guys about things that aren't really X's and O's related. They could be X's and O's related, but it's more about off the field leadership things. Now, we say that, and then actually on Wednesday of this week, we'll actually vote for captains, which will be, again, a peer vote. It really doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what they think. But I think overall, our guys have learned to communicate very, very well, much better than when we walked in the building here in December. I think they understand that, in order to be heard, you got to speak, right? And they've done a really good job of buying into that.
And then just for fun, I don't know if you caught over the weekend, Brad Underwood was showing off a cow at the state fair, and wondering, given your upbringing, if you had any evaluation.
He's one up on me. I've shown a lot of pigs, right, but I've never shown a cattle. My dad, we didn't have cows on the farm, so he's actually in a world I've never even done. I did see the video of that, and I think Coach would appreciate it. He didn't look like he was all that comfortable in that role that he was doing. It's fun to see. It's absolutely awesome. I tell you, just the people that Josh has brought into this department, the athletic department, is just, well, I don't know if I ever told this story. I get the job on Saturday morning at whatever time it was, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, depending on what time zone you're in. I was on the East Coast. And by noon, I had heard from every head coach in the University of Illinois athletic department, right? Like, that doesn't happen by chance, right? I know Josh must have given, a direction or initiative, but it's one thing to say it and ask it, but it's another thing to do it. So it literally made a huge impression on me about the atmosphere and the culture he's created here in the athletic department, which is pretty cool.
That's neat. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Hey, Coach, with this second scrimmage, I'm just curious if you would say every coach is going to say, we still got a lot of work to do, but you think you're ahead with this install, maybe a little behind, right where you thought you'd be? What's your evaluation this far through camp?
Robert, great question. I think defense is always a little bit ahead. I know that everybody thinks that's coach speak, but it really is, right? So defensive players, they have a call, but they really have to be trained and understand it's what the offense does, and then you react to it. Offense has a play called in the huddle, so they initially have to, take the field and then have the defense react out. And then there's the next tier of what a defense does causes them to react. So just human nature in the game of football, defense probably a little bit ahead. I think they were in scrimmage one. I think offense caught up this week. Last week, I believe we had, if I'm not mistaken, 4+ turnovers, and this week we had none, right? So I do know that our coaches are preaching it, teaching it, and talking about it. So I think that part's carried forward. Special teams, which has got to be a huge factor in our game plan to effectively be able to win games. And we got, a couple guys, the lads, right, that we can execute very well, but it's a lot more than just kickers and punters, right? We gotta have the right KOR scheme. We gotta have the right kick cover team. We gotta have the right guys covering punts and the right guys trying to block punts, right? So I think the development of our special teams really grew in this last week, and tomorrow actually we'll put a huge emphasis on all 4 phases of the kicking game, and it'll be a good chance to see where we're at. But I'm excited where they're at, and by no means is it a finished product. We got a lot of work to do between now and Nebraska, but I would definitely say they made a nice step forward today.
And then you mentioned you did a halftime today, and I know this wasn't the simulated game, but I'm curious. The old locker room downstairs versus the locker room in the Smith Center. Have you decided what you're going to do at halftime of a home game? Are you going to go in the old one? You're going to go all the way back to the new one? What's your plan?
Yeah, great question. So I've evolved actually as well. When I first got here, I walked it and I kind of thought we'd go to the old locker room, but there is a certain value to, they get ready and prepare every day in that locker room. And it's a big open space. Chris Smith actually came out to practice today, who the Smith Center is named after his parents, and said a few words to our players, which was awesome. But the Smith Center is really, truly one of the premier facilities I've ever been in for college football. And we're going to maximize and use it, right? So we'll go in at our pregame routine in the Smith Center, and then we will enter there as well as halftime. And it really got down to it being about a 40-second difference when you actually walk it and go upstairs. So we've got it tiered up, and we're going to actually send some players down a different stairwell so it doesn't get congested. So it'll be a little bit smoother in transition, but we'll be in the Smith Center locker room for everything.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Bret, I'm curious today for this scrimmage, when you walked in, what was it? I want to see this out of my guys compared to that first one you guys did last week.
Yeah, Joey. So we really wanted to make this as much live for our players and coaches. So this was an unscripted scrimmage, all right? Unlike last time where we had everything scripted out. So we knew going into last week what was going to be called, what was going to be played, what was going to be done on first down, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 4. We had it scripted, right? So now we just put the ball down on the 25-yard line, had officials, and the coaches were on the sidelines, and they were making the calls as they became live, right? So first down, Tony had a play called, and the result was 2nd and 7. Then he's got to make the next decision on what he's doing with second. It really stressed our coaches as well. So it was much more interaction and communication, forcing people to interact off one another, and that was really, really a positive. Had a couple substitution things that it's actually a good thing they came up because now we can stress it. So overall, that was probably the biggest thing, the flow of the game, which was the biggest difference from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2.
What did you notice about how your your coordinators and your assistants interacted with one another to this, as this was all kind of live and unscripted?
It was awesome. There was things that happened during the course of the scrimmage, things that would happen within a series, like just made our guys communicate and talk with one another. A couple late substitutions when we went tempo, just different things that created a new situation that hadn't come up. We've done them during practice, but now we're on opposite sidelines, offensively, defensively, trying to make it as game realistic as possible. So there were some live action moments there, end of half, right, and end of game, where they had to know the rules of the game, when we can huddle, when we couldn't huddle. And then really at the end of half, I thought BP might have had one of his better, cleaner scrimmage sessions, just managing the clock at the end of the game to get points on the board.
And then one more, if I could. Last week,
Yeah.
You indicated Mike Epstein had a touchdown. Is there any touchdowns you can leak out from today?
Yeah. Brett, did Mike have one?
He said he had one last time.
Oh, he did have one. Yeah, Mike had one last time. I don't know if Mike got in there this time. I know Chase Hayden had one. Reggie had one. Chase Brown had one. I think it was a steady dose. Actually, one of the Chases might have had two. I just remember as they're going in my head, like I thought our guys, were able to. There were some routine ones, but there was also some explosive plays and some things that made you get encouraged. I think we're going to be able to, put together some things in the run game, but I thought today it really looked good.
Thank you, Bret.
Yep.
Hey, Bret. I know we've talked a little bit about Art Sikowski in some past interviews, but I just wanted to, now that we're through two scrimmages, you mentioned him getting reps with the ones along with the other QBs, just your assessments of him at this point and how he has fit into what you guys are trying to do.
Well, if you guys have talked to him, Colin, he is really, he's what a quarterback looks like, talks like, sounds like. I mean, he understands it. He gets it. He'd probably be a phenomenal coach if he wants to. He's just very, very in command, right? He understands and appreciates. He literally can be the coach within the game on the field. Usually knows where the ball needs to go, why it needs to go there, and the principles behind it. I think some guys just try to memorize plays. He memorizes concepts. So I've been very impressed with that. And then I read some of his quotes from Media Day where, people were asking him about his relationship with BP. And I think that room in general, both him, BP, Matt, and Ryan, who came in as well, and, obviously Deuce and Samari, those guys have all done a nice job of working together with one another and trying to get as good as they possibly can. And he's been a nice addition to that room.
I know it's obviously going to depend on situations, but with Brandon being kind of the de facto number one guy, I mean, how do you envision Art being utilized in this offense right now? I mean, is there any specifics you can really think about at this point or divulge at this point?
No, I mean, there is definitely plans and things that can happen, but you know, during my entire, you know, head coaching career, I've never been a two rotational quarterback guy. I think the players need to know and understand, as well as coaches, what the plan is and how to react off of it. I would say between, you know, BP, Art, Matt and Ryan, they all bring a certain skill set that's unique to them, but they have to be able to fit and play in the offensive scheme that we're trying to get across, right? Like, I think when you start mixing and matching quarterbacks that got totally different skill sets and different functions, then you can't really practice efficiently at one common goal, right? So that's really what we try to do, is just install the Illini offense and see how those guys fit into it.
One more, if I could, as well, just on Art still. I know you mentioned just the interactions between him and Brandon. I mean, with Art being not being the number one guy at this point, how nice has it been for you to see him come into this new situation and just interact as well as he has, instead of, you know, maybe being upset or something like that he couldn't be in the number one spot at this point in time?
Well, I know a lot of people like to talk about the number one, especially when talking about quarterback, but you know, all four of those guys have taken reps and done a lot of really good things. Obviously, the more exposure they get, it sounds silly, right? But the more failure they have in practice, the better teaching it will become. So I think, you know, Art's taking advantage of every opportunity. Matt's taking advantage of every opportunity. Ryan's taking advantage of every opportunity. BP's taking advantage of his opportunities. I think to get where we need to be on game day, it's about what guy at the quarterback position gives us the best chance to win. I have one rule in our program that I live by every day, right? And it's put the team first. I really don't care what anybody's time is or how long they've been here or where their status is, right? We're going to always, as coaches, put the team first before we make any decisions. And, you know, if Brandon Peters is the guy in there at quarterback, we're going to expect him to execute what he does. If Ryan's in there at quarterback, if Matt's in there at quarterback, if Art's in there at quarterback, they're going to execute the plan that we give them, and hopefully good things will happen.
Thanks, Bret.
Yep.
Bret, I wanted to ask you how much tempo was emphasized this practice compared to maybe the last one, where, if I have this correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you kind of emphasized your coaches kind of staying quiet and letting your players figure it out the first time, if I understand it correctly. But it seemed like tempo was emphasized even then, just having your guys own an offense and own a defense and figure it out for themselves. Just how similar was that today? Yeah,
so every day when we come over to practice, we start with 7:45. We start the day right. Our coaches get with players, and for about 15 minutes, they kind of just give them the outlay of the day. We may have injuries, we may have, you know, different things that are going to happen during the course of practice. We have guys that are in maintenance. Hey, so we remind them, hey, so-and-so's down today. You're going to have your reps, offense, defense, special teams. And then I meet with them every day at 8 o'clock, and I go through three things: where we're practicing, what we're practicing, and the tempo of the practice, right? So, you know, whether we're going to be in the stadium, whether we're going to be on the grass fields. We went in the indoor the other day. I go through the where, right? And then I lay out the practice schedule and tell them, hey, we're working early downs here. We're working third downs here. We're working move the ball here. We're working red area. We're working situational football. And then the third thing we go through is the tempo of practice, right? So it could involve the snap count. But when I say tempo, I'm really talking about what's expectation. So the tempo today was full throttle, which means they were going to full tackle, full block. There weren't going to be any cut tackles or cut blocks, but everything was full speed, right? So I think the tempo you're referring to is when the ball snaps. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, or just trying to get the ball snapped as quickly as possible, as many times as you can.
Yeah, you know, there's obviously times that we'll do that, but there's a lot of times where, you know, we're playing huddle football. So to get the answer to that, you're going to have a seat on the 28 to find out.
How much is like the relationship between Brandon and Tony? Just Tony has made an emphasis that Brandon has to own this thing and has to own this offense, and it's got to be his responsibility as much as it is Tony's. Just how satisfied have you been throughout this camp that they've been able to work together and have that been put in place? Yeah,
again, I think the quarterbacks in general have really done a really good job. You know, I know a lot has been said and written about the wide receiver room having a lot of transition, right? New players, new faces. But in reality, the room that had the biggest change was the quarterback room, right? So from the departure of a guy like Isaiah, who took a large amount of reps, all right, to be in a wide receiver room, that immediately changed, right? And then obviously to bring in 2 transfers with Sikowski and Ryan, that really changed the room as well, right? So a lot has transitioned in that quarterback room, but I would say no matter who's been in there, we've talked about them owning the huddle, right? Like we have a little bit of fun with our rookies. They got to get up and tell stories or tell jokes just to get them to communicate in front of the team on certain nights. If I'll come in and I'll call a couple guys up, and Samari Collier keeps getting called back up because he can't tell the joke to save his life, right? So like he's got to learn how to communicate, and I think that's part of the evolution of a quarterback is they got to learn to speak in front of their people that they'll follow them, right? That they'll listen to you. And Samari's got a lot of arm talent, but he's got to learn to effectively communicate, and he's doing those things. I think BP did a better job in his fall than he has in the spring, but he's nowhere at the end of his growth curve there. Same thing with Matt. Matt's not a really outgoing kid, but he's done a better job in the huddle and a better job of handling himself on the field. And then Art and Ryan, I'd never really been around before. Those 2 guys naturally come in with that QB voice at a high level. It's already pretty good.
Thanks, Bret.
Yep.
Hi, Coach. I was wondering if you could comment on the schedule overall coming up. Some things that you like about it, things you might not like about it, challenges, opportunities, that kind of stuff.
Doug, are you talking about the game schedule or like
Game schedule? Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, I've said a couple times about the game in Ireland getting rechanged to here. I think to open up college football here on the 28th at noon, really the first college football kickoff it's just so awesome, especially after the COVID year, right? After everybody just, itching to get back into college football. I haven't received a ticket sales report yet. But hopefully everybody in the state of Illinois or anybody that wants to come to this game is buying up those tickets and getting ready to fill this place up, right? And see where we can get on game day. And then to have the unique opportunity to come back and have our second game at home here against UTSA, a night game on Saturday night is really, I think, pretty cool, pretty awesome. Because that'll be the normal week 1 game and everybody else will be playing as well. Then to travel to Virginia, I have a lot of respect for that program. And obviously Coach has done a lot of great things. A head coach, kind of like me, has been in a couple different spots and has built a program there that is, going to be a tremendous challenge for us in an earlier game, and then turn that around and come back week 4 against Maryland and play on a Friday night. That's going to be its own set of unique challenges and issues. We'll make a dramatic change from our schedule just because we're coming back from our first road game and we got a shortened week to play on a Friday, which I'm kind of glad that in the NFL, I had a couple of those Thursday night games to learn how to prepare on a short week, and that'll definitely have a lot of carryover.
You got 2 bye weeks, I believe, on the schedule. Is that something that coaches like, or is it something, would you rather not see the 2 bye weeks?
No, Doug, it's something I do like. I'm saying that now, right? But during my past experiences as a head coach, I think anything you can do to get your guys a little bit of break, as long as it's not silly, right? Now, as long as it's like 2 breaks within 3 weeks or something like that, and they're kind of spaced out. I believe we go 7, right? And then a bye, and then 3, and then a bye. So it kind of spaces it out fairly well. Likes it enough that that's what we did, right? Now we're playing week 0 against Wyoming next year, and that gives us 2 bye weeks again. So I love the bye week. I think it allows you a chance for your players to recover and a little bit of a chance for you to work some of your younger players and develop them. So we'll definitely try to maximize those opportunities.
Last one, Coach, if I could.
Yeah.
A big homecoming game against Wisconsin, a place where obviously you've been before. How much emphasis and how important is it for you to bring back alum, former players to the program and get them involved in your program?
Yeah, we're actually going to do that week 1, right? We have a reunion with a championship team in 2001 that are going to come back. Coach Turner is going to be our guest captain. I know that there's a lot of really good players coming back for that game as well. So really that's been our entire focus. And then we'll invite a guest captain back for every home game, right? So the next week against UTSA, all the home games, Maryland included. And then of course the Wisconsin homecoming, that's a homecoming. That's really kind of more, I've been in college football now for a long time, and the homecoming is really for the alum and the fans, right? It's something they earmark and target You know, they didn't vote, they didn't ask me my vote on who we wanted for homecoming, right? They just scheduled that baby in there and have tremendous respect for Wisconsin and everything that they are. Obviously, I spent a lot of time there and had a lot of great memories and great stories, but that's again part of my past. It's helped define me to get to where I am today. So we'll really kind of just approach it as a normal week. And absolutely, homecoming should be something that the whole CU community can kind of rally around and be a part of. So it should be a lot of fun for everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.